Hello, Jared.
Hey man, how's it going?
It's going good. It's going better now than it has been for the last few days. I've had this strange lower back thing, which I always want to start with some sort
Mm,
of health grumble, but
yeah,
it's much better now. So there you go. How about yourself?
yeah. I've had an upper and middle back issue
Oh,
the last few
nice.
days. Sort of still there, but better than it was a few days ago. So yeah, there you go. Here's to being on the mend.
Yeah. Cheers, indeed. Which brings me on to what are you drinking?
What am I drinking? This is a Hopadillo
Oh,
IPA
okay.
from Carbach Brewery or Brewing Co. rather, which is in Houston. Good old Texas folk. 6.6%, in case anyone was wondering. And yeah, it's delicious.
Yeah, excellent.
Very good.
What is its what's its character? Tell me about it.
Hmm.
How did you meet this stout
How did I
blonde?
do this? I met it, I don't know, either in a bar down in Texas or at someone's house. I don't remember. But it's good. Tastes like an IPA. Beyond that, I have no words for you.
Okay.
What about you? What you got?
Well, I'm similarly keeping it kind of close to hometown. It's called Lost Pier. It's West Side IPA,
Okay.
and it's this is 6.2, so not quite as strong as your jam. But this
Yeah.
stuff is from Brighton.
Now, is
Just
this referring to the pier that burned down a few years ago?
I guess it probably is. I'd not even considered that. Yeah, Lost Pier. Um, and it's nice. It's that kind of weird. The strangest thing happened in beer a few years ago. It turns out that the Americans were good at it all along,
Well,
and
let's
as,
not
as
say
all,
all along. I mean, for a long time, we made really bad beer.
well, I think the stuff that people buy in huge numbers, like anything with the word light in it, is
Oh yeah.
essentially it's fizzy water with like a drop of beer flavor in it. But and so I think for the longest time in this country anyway, we thought that American beer was like Budweiser,
Mm,
Coors,
yeah.
and then the light variants of those. But yeah, but then you learn that like there was this, I don't know, like Sierra Nevada or something, which is like a proper tasty, strong, delicious beer going on. And then the whole of this people getting crazy into pretentious craft beer in the UK is basically they're all using these American recipes and American hops. So for all the mockery that we were saying, this isn't how you do beer. Beer is supposed to be warm and flat and taste of sweat. That's what beer is. It turns out that actually you guys were sitting on a little secret there. So
Say you.
USA, God bless America and all who drink in her.
Amen.
I realized that the last couple of times we spoke, I've been neglecting the sort of what are you drinking element of the whole what are you drinking chat. So I put an order in with the local bottle shop who I've been neglecting during lockdown,
Yeah.
um, and went and bought up a bunch of their more ridiculous things. So this is actually a little loosener before we get onto the 7% chocolate and pistachio cannoli stout.
Wow. Okay.
There
This
can only be
is
one. So that's this one's going to be a nightcap.
okay. I was gonna say this sounds like your dessert beer.
Yeah. But then I also acquired one of these today. I'm not going to kind of kill these all off tonight. I may just have a little taster of each one. So this one is beer cask aged rum.
Ooh.
So
Okay.
this is Danish rum, which seems like the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Scandinavians. I never met a Scandinavian who I didn't really like, and so I trust them when it comes to kind of taking a Caribbean thing and making it kind of Scandinavian. So I'm looking forward to that. It's like a vanilla-y, beery
Interesting.
rum
So,
experience. So
so how does one consume? I suppose however you want to, but is that like a drink it neat, drink it on the rocks, mix it with Coke?
I have no idea. I'm presuming like drinking it with Coke is somehow sacrilegious. I intend to pour some into this glass here and drink it. You know, like a
Good man.
human being would drink a beverage.
We're not animals here.
In fact, you know, for all the talk, I'm just gonna have to crack it open and try some now.
Right.
It smells like. It smells strong. You know, it stings the nostrils. I won't lie to you, but it definitely has you know has some character going on.
Oh man.
Ah,
Now you're making me wish that I poured some whiskey out instead of just beer at 3 in the afternoon my time.
yeah. Sorry about that. We should probably do one of these at a time that suits you better.
No,
It should be like
I
5
don't
in the
mind.
morning, man.
It's quite all right.
Right. Well,
Although if you want to be up at 5 in the morning anyway, maybe we should give that a shot.
yeah. I mean that is the kind of time that I'm being woken up.
Mm.
It smells kind of like. I mean, I don't want to be that guy who says, "Oh, it smells of like."
Oh no, be that guy. Be that guy.
I'm getting a big chunk of almond out of that.
All right. Now remind me, was that in the title?
I think so.
All right.
That's really interesting because actually what it does is it ends up sort of taking it from that really sweet like rum thing where it just tastes like caramel,
Mm.
and it's got a lot more of it's sort of moving more into like a serious spirit kind of territory of almost having like a kind of a whiskey-ish smack to it. It's like halfway between rum and bourbon as far as I can tell. It's
No,
nice, pleasant.
all right. Don't go killing off that bottle before I see you.
Yeah, well, I know where I can get some more.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a nice drop. That feels to me like a good studio beverage. It's very warming on the throat.
All right.
I always used to like it used to be a thing of mine if you're recording vocals to always have some kind of like warming spirit so that you could like, you know, give you some going on down there, because it sometimes that doesn't come by itself. You've got to really work on that.
Absolutely.
But,
The trick is do it when you only have like one song to sing, because if you have you know, like 4 or 5 tunes that you're planning to do in one day and you take a swig before every take, you're gonna be smashed before, you know, the third song.
there is that. There's also timing is something you've got to think about. Like if you're recording 4 songs, I always like to think there'll be one song that when I'm just when you've basically just on the edge of losing your voice, that's going to sound great. Because actually the edge of losing your voice is often when voices sound best. I don't know about you, whether you feel the same way, but like you normally get to this point where it's like, oh my god, like you do a gig and like, my god, my voice had this whole sort of like range and this like soul and this depth that I never knew it had before. The next day, can't sing a note. It's gone. And then the tour's basically over from that point.
It's like right before you get a cold, same thing.
Yeah.
Or you've got this weird little tickle, you're like, oh boy, something's coming, something's happening. But you have a great gig, and then
and that's it. Yeah, it's the little with the one hand he giveth, with the other he taketh away.
It's funny you saying that you smoke cigarettes and drink a bunch of wine to get your voice ready to record, because that's literally the exact opposite that Frank Sinatra said he did. He would like quit drinking and quit smoking for like a week or something before a session.
Really?
Just to, you know, clear it all out.
Wow.
Obviously, you're going for very different tones.
I mean, if I had the capacity for Frank's tone, then trust me, I would be doing everything in my power to get there. That surprises me. I see Frank as the kind of guy who's like on mic, fag in hand, drinking other.
When you see all these pictures of him in the studio smoking and stuff, so maybe it was just he would stop, you know, until he got into the studio, and then he'd kick it all back up again. Or maybe it was just a lie he told some journalist one time. Who knows? Also,
I sort of, by association, I think of him, and then I also think of Dean Martin, and I think like Dean Martin's not quitting for anyone, like not for a second.
Definitely not. No. Although I did read at one point that that Dean used to kind of play up his drunkenness. Yeah.
I've heard that as well. But I mean, if that's, you know, I think we all do that to an extent, don't we? Like you have a certain you have a certain stage persona.
Mm.
I don't know if you feel that way, but like the person I am in everyday life is not the same person who stands on the stage and insults the audience and sings songs.
I don't know. You've insulted me in your normal life.
Yeah, but that's because you're a dick. So
You're also a very honest man.
yeah, thank you. But yeah, I think there is, for me anyway. There's always been an element of you don't stand on stage and be yourself.
Mm.
I don't know how you feel, but like the songs that I sing, they're not confessional. They're not about
Yeah.
me. I'm not bearing my soul. I'm sometimes bearing elements of my soul
Yeah.
or sharing some parts of my experience, but I'm not pouring my heart out. This isn't like me, like, you know, sharing my innermost personal feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that. And I don't know if this was the same for you. I assume it was. But I think it's a progression that a lot of songwriters go through where your early stuff is very confessional, you know, and it is very, very personal and autobiographical. And I know for me anyway, in the early days, it definitely felt like I was up there and my purpose was to bare my soul, which is really narcissistic,
Yeah,
you know, to think that anyone should give a damn about, you know, oh, I got broken up with, you know, woe is me. Who cares?
yeah,
At some point, you realize that um, writing a song is more than just, you know, writing your own life, or at least to me, you know, it's figuring out how to create stories and create characters and find ways to make them relatable to everyone else and to yourself without it being something that's necessarily happened to you.
yeah,
And yeah, I do think once you kind of get into that territory and the more gigs you play, I mean, it's show business. It is, you know, you are up there to put on a show and you are up there to entertain. And I don't necessarily mean that in like cheesy Vegas terms. Um, but your job is um, to entertain people, you know, and to be this thing that they are interested in taking in for a night, you know. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You know, they are two different people, for me anyway.
very interesting what you said about the you know, when you start out, you know, you feel like the way that you engage with an audience in your material is to make it very confessional, very personal about yourself. But I think there's this, that there is at the same time a sort of a naivety about that, which can be very engaging. I think people do seem to respond, you know, kind of positively to stuff that they think is like personal and
Sure.
confessional.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, but for me, and I don't know if this is something that has changed with age as a listener as well as a writer and a performer. But like I find myself not caring. It's like I don't want to.
Hmm.
If someone's singing me a song about themselves, I
Yeah,
find myself going, I don't want to know about you. I want you to sing about me. I
yeah.
want you to sing a song that's gonna feel like you're talking about my experience.
Hmm.
And similarly, the older I get as a writer and a performer, it's like for me that the challenge is not writing about specific events that are significant to me in my life. It's like I want to write in such a way that people think I'm singing about specific events in their life.
Yeah,
I want to. It's not so much about I want to, you know, I want to exercise my personal demons through song. It's like
mm,
I want to exercise your personal demons through song. I want to break your fucking heart every night. I want you to cry. I don't
yeah,
want anyone to leave my show not feeling like they've been sort of emotionally messed with. And that's kind of the challenge and the joy. You know,
yeah,
it's like I kind of want to, I want to feel like there's a musical communion and an understanding that you can share with people and share common experience through song and make them feel like I understand them even though I've never met them.
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's not necessarily um, writing songs that don't feel personal to people. It's about writing. It's about figuring out how to step outside of your own stuff and write a song that maybe has absolutely nothing to do with you, but will still feel very personal to the people who are listening to it.
Yeah.
And something that they're going to latch onto, and exactly like you said, feel like you're writing about them. I think that's where a lot of I don't know. I was going to say where a lot of songwriters get to. I don't know if they do or not, but I feel like that should be the goal.
Yeah.
One of the goals.
It's a balance though, isn't it? Because I think you have to have, to an extent, you have to have experience of the thing that you're writing about. But you don't want to be writing only about your own experience. You want to be, you want to take the experience you have. Like, I mean, there probably isn't anyone alive who's got to the age of 21 and not experienced like heartbreak or rejection or, you know, jealousy, or these sort of fundamental traits. So it's a question of taking the experience and writing about it in such a way that you can try and make it real. But it's more about making it seem real than actually making it real. So for me, it's way more effective if I want to write a song that's about heartbreak. It's way, I find it anyway, way easier to convey that concept if I'm not writing about something that's actually happened to me, that I have a lot of baggage to do with, that I don't actually necessarily really understand myself, because I'm still kind of like, you know, confused or angry or hurt or something. So you know, it's far easier to write in hypotheticals and add your own experience to it.
Yeah,
I find, but everyone's different. I know some people who can only write about pretty much, you know, autobiographical, like this happened to me, and then they'll just tell the story of their life, and that's how they write.
There are plenty of great songs that have been written that way.
Yeah.
So not trying to necessarily trash the, you know, confessional.
Yeah. I mean, some people do it. Some people do it great, but some people do it really well.
But then there's people like John Prine, who, you know, Angel from Montgomery, one of the greatest tunes ever written, and it starts off with a line, "I'm an old woman named after my mother." Well, John Prine is not an old woman named after his mother. But you listen to that song and you believe him, and you're hearing it like, yeah, you are an old woman, and you were probably named after your mom.
Yeah. An interesting thing to do is anyway to write about actual events and actual, you know, the real world, and to try and write about current affairs as they're going down, or as they have happened. Is that something that you think a lot about, or try to avoid?
It's not something that I've done much at all in the past. Obviously, in the current climate, and I'm including just the last few years in that statement. It feels, there are times where it feels like, as a songwriter, it's your duty to write about what you're seeing. And then there are also times where I feel like, well, if you don't know what you're talking about, you should probably keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
And that's always kind of been the internal struggle for me, is, unless I feel like I've got a pretty strong grasp on what I'm trying to say, I don't want to stick my foot in it.
Yeah.
You know,
that's a great instinct. I wish I had that instinct a few years back, when I was like, I would just open my mouth about any old shit. It's like, yeah, I saw one news report, and like, I can write a song about the war in Iraq. You know, what do I know? But yeah,
I believe
the folly of youth. You know?
Yeah. What about you? Is that? I mean, I was going to say you seem to be able to sort of channel what you're seeing and reading and soaking up and put it into songs much quicker than I've been able to do. I think it takes me longer to process everything and figure out how to put it into words that feel right to me.
Yeah, like I say, it used to come a lot more naturally to me. I feel like I tread a lot more carefully nowadays. So when I wanted to write about economics, like I gave it a good sort of 2 years of research before I wrote the songs that went on that record. And you know, I wanted to feel like I understood it. And to be honest, I didn't. You know, I still wrote from a base of a fairly solid ignorance. but the point with that is I felt like I could, because I felt like actually ignorance is the basis from which everyone is talking for the most part.
Yeah.
Even the people who really, really very confident that they know what they're doing. I kind of feel like the amount of ignorance there is in the world when it comes to predicting the future, be it economic or political. I think people are a lot more confident than maybe they should be, because there's always something unexpected that's going to come along and bite you on the ass. Like,
Well,
for example, like you can forecast economics till the cows come home, and then there's the global pandemic happens, and like all your predictions are out the window, and people will have built their systems on these forecasts which are mathematically beautifully rendered and are worked out to the nth degree to say that this is a very reliable, foolproof formula for what is going to happen in the future, until such time as either like human beings just go mad, which we are prone to do from time to time, or we all get kind of sick at the same time. You can't predict the future, and essentially that is what. So I'm going on a rant here, aren't I? That's kind of has essentially been the aim of economics, is to predict the future. If you can predict the future, then you can monetize it and you can make a lot of money out of it.
Yeah, of course.
You can't predict the future, because once you get confident at predicting the future, that's when you're most vulnerable, because something will come along and it will bite you on the butt, and you'll end up kind of screwing up. And so then what you have to do is mitigate it by making sure that when the shit does hit the fan, that you have to push all the cost essentially of what's gone wrong onto other people. And so essentially you structure society in such a way that when shit hits fan, that the wealthy people remain wealthy and the poor people foot the bill. And that's essentially what happens every time the shit hits the fan.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I saw, I don't know, on Instagram or something earlier today, there was a press release, I guess, that Live Nation sent out likely to a bunch of booking agents, but it's found its way onto social media. And it was basically saying that given the circumstances and how things are going in the world, basically promoters like Live Nation are in a tougher position than they used to be. Obviously, everyone is. And so they were laying out how they're going to move forward. And essentially what they were saying, and I'm paraphrasing this quite a lot, was that they're just going to screw over the artists even more than they always have. Guarantees are going to be quite a bit lower. Ticket price is going to be set up by the promoter and it's non-negotiable. There were going to be more costs, if I remember right, that were kind of at the discretion of the promoter. If for whatever reason an artist ended up canceling and pulling out of like a festival kind of scenario, they would then have to pay back to Live Nation double what their fee would have been. So just lots of things like this, and I know you've dealt with it. I've certainly dealt with it, where a lot of times these big promoters are cooking the books already in a pretty significant way. And to see one of the biggest out there put out a thing in the middle of a global pandemic saying that, oh yeah, by the way, you guys who are struggling to make a living already, we're about to make it a lot harder on you because we're hurting.
Yeah, I mean that's not terribly classy behavior now, is it?
No, but also not terribly surprising.
No, I mean the thing is that I can't speak to Live Nation. I've had very little to do with them specifically. I know you've done a whole Live Nation tour which wasn't particularly satisfactory, shall we say.
No,
Honestly, I can't even remember. I think maybe I did do some stuff with them, but this was back before I really knew who was promoting any of the stuff I did. I would just show up and sing my songs.
Yeah.
But my experience with big promoters essentially is they don't really give a shit until such time as you're the name that is making their name. Do you know what I mean? And until you're the one, like Live Nation is promoting this tour, it's the big one. Until then, essentially, that they're just going through the motions. I think I don't know. I don't want to talk smack about anyone who's
Well, and it's
business I
understandable.
don't necessarily understand. But for the most part, I've always found whenever you work with, and for me, it's the same. It's the same across any area of the music industry. And I suppose it makes sense if you're dealing with big players
Yeah.
and you are a small player. You don't get the time and attention, and it kind of makes sense because you're not what's paying the bill.
Yeah. But all the same.
Yeah. The thing then is like if what you want is like if they don't give a shit enough to do the work to help you along, you kind of wish they wouldn't offer to do the work. Do you know what I mean? Like if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Like, you know, if you're not going to promote the gig, don't be the promoter of the gig. That, I suppose, is what I'm saying. Like, because you know, someone else will do it. Who cares? And they might do something. You know?
Right. Well, you've been switching gears here. You've been doing more of the live streaming since we last spoke.
I have, yeah.
I know you've got another Milk and Cookies coming up, and I watched your Easy World.
Did you? Oh.
I'd like to hear a little bit about that. What brought it on? I know. You know what, we've known each other for 8 years or something, and in that time, plenty of people have been clamoring for you to play Easy World tunes again, and you almost always just say no or don't even respond, and yet you've done an entire show. So is this to you know, please the masses and you know, essentially say you've heard it now, you're never hearing it again, or did you enjoy it? What tell us about it? What happened?
Okay, well, for those who don't know me, like I used to be the singer and songwriter in a band called Easy World from late 1997 until summer of 2004, and so that was the first music that I'd written that got out into the world and got put on records and found an audience. And it was very different to what I do now. We were I don't know what we were. We were like a youthful pop rock punk band. I used to sing incredibly high and thought that was the mark of a good singer. Anyway, I'd since in 2004, sort of leaving the band and being a soloist for the following 16 years, I sort of thought of that period of my life as you know, an embarrassing youthful blip, I suppose. But actually, during the lockdown period, while I was thinking about, you know, shows to play and having a lot of time, and you know, it might still be a year before I get to play an actual gig in front of people again. Mm-hmm. I kind of thought I want to do some shows about, you know, where I play songs that I've written, and I thought, well, why don't we just go back to the very beginning and think about like my journey, make it very self-indulgent, but all about me. Like as a songwriter, like these are, you know, I can't disown these moments and these songs that I wrote. And then in thinking about that, I actually found that I really quite liked some of them, and there was a lot of youthful naivety. But actually, there's something to be said for youthful naivety. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes when you don't know what you're doing, and I've always said this about how I made my first solo album, I didn't know what I was doing as a producer. Yeah. So for the first Easy World records, I didn't know what I was doing as a songwriter, but I did it anyway. And there are some things on there that I don't think are necessarily very sophisticated or very well realized as somebody who subsequently learned about a lot more about songwriting. But I think there are some really interesting choices and good moments, and so I'd been thinking about maybe playing some of those old songs again, and then I just thought, hell, I'll just do a whole bunch of those songs and see if I can pick songs that I wrote as a, you know, when I mean, some of these songs are 20 years old, so I would have been in my very early 20s when I wrote them. Mm. And kind of think, if I'd written these songs now as a 42-year-old, like how would I go about playing them? And so that was the challenge for me. And would I be able to actually put on a show that I thought as I am now that I thought was decent. And I really, really enjoyed it. I loved it. It was lovely to sort of, it was like reconnecting with a dear old friend. And yeah, I remembered strangely vividly how much I cared for those songs and how much I cared for our band's audience, particularly. Like, we had a beautiful community of fans, and it kind of really brought it home to me in a very, you know, quite touching and emotional way, singing those songs again. It was like, yeah, it was like being a kid again. I loved it way more than I thought I would. So yeah, so that was my singing the songs of Easy World experience. Yeah, it was great. It was good fun. I just don't know what I'm going to do next.
Yeah, as far as well, you've got Milk and Cookies Part 2 coming up, right? Yeah. Is this going to be kind of another classic Milk and Cookies style, or are you going to change up the format? Yeah.
I mean, I think essentially it's going to be the same format as last time, but the songs will be different. But the tricky thing is, so I've been doing Milk and Cookies now for 20 years, and and so it's largely based around cover versions of, like, you know, I usually play like kind of either very difficult or like odd choiced cover versions. I'm basically running out. I've played like hundreds and hundreds of songs, and I'm sort of running out of ones. So I might have to start sort of, you know, repeating them. So I'm sort of struggling for stuff to play that I think is going to be both, you know, I don't want something I've not played before, but also is something that's kind of like potentially show-stopping. So it's tricky. Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably time for another covers book, because doesn't that one end in like 2000 or even in the 90s or something?
It does. No, it does. Yeah, it does. But the thing is that there have been no good records made since. So like, you know, present company accepted. But with respect, your songs aren't going to get in the book. So
you are right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a book of #1 singles. So we're not going near that. Not
Okay.
Now.
Yeah.
You know, 50 years ago, maybe. But yeah.
What would be interesting is there a book, and if not, could you compile such a book where rather than being #1s, it was the last place spot on Billboard or whatever chart you're looking at for every year?
Well, I mean, the trouble is that there would be some really interesting songs in there, but like, there's also a good chance that they would just be there would be terrible pop songs that just were shit as well as being bad. And like, I think being unpopular doesn't make you good. Like, being unpopular often makes you bad. I mean,
I would settle for a last place spot on a Billboard chart. I'm not going to lie. That would feel like an achievement at this point.
I still don't really understand how American charts work. Like, because you have like 50 different charts, don't you?
I don't know how they're you know, ranked now either, with all of the digital stuff. And
yeah,
you know, it used to just be record sales, right? I assume.
Oh no, but the US always had like, and I never understood it. The US always had like radio play was also a contributor to chart position, which I found was kind of weird.
Interesting. We also in the US, at least as of a couple of years ago, don't get paid for radio play.
Yeah.
Like in the UK, which is mental.
Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate, because like, you know, if in this country, if you get a song played on the radio, it can be a nice little earner. Not that I wish to be too crass about it, but and if you can get like a French rock star to record one of your songs, it can be quite handy.
How does one go about that?
Sorry?
How does one go about that?
I don't know. To be honest, like, you're going the right way about it. The way I went about it is just be in the game for 20 years, and if stuff happens, like, keep your standards high, keep your stuff out there, and you know, to be perfectly honest, this is kind of how I feel. You know, when people say, what advice would you give to like a young songwriter, performer, whatever, it's just do it. Just get on with it, and like, and don't try too hard
Mm.
to be successful. And if you're good at it, and you keep being good at it, and you keep trying your best, and you keep putting yourself into it, and you, to use a football or soccer analogy, as you would say, it's like stay on the field. It's like, even if you're injured, stay on the field, because you never know, the ball might drop to you in the 90th minute, 6 yards out, and you just slot it home. And every now and then the ball falls at your fucking feet. It happens. And it's happened to me a number of times where, without really trying to, just by having been doing it for a long time, and hopefully not pissing too many people off. I've pissed some people off, obviously. But, you know, every now and then the ball drops to your feet, you're 6 yards out, and you tap it in the goal. And it's not a reliable way of having a career, admittedly, but you know, it seems to be holding up strangely. You know, you can't rely on it, and you certainly can't take it to the bank. But
No, you get laughed at if you tried.
yeah, but you know, but music's it's a beautiful thing to do. You know, I think that if you can make it your life, and I mean make it your life, not make it your living. I mean, if you can have it be the thing that,
yeah,
you know, that leads you down the path that you go down, I think it's a lovely thing to do with yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we have very similar feelings on all of that. You know, I too have often said that it's all about just staying in the game, you know, and just doing it. You may or may not ever get to there, wherever that is, you know. But as long as you're doing it, and as long as you're making music and putting it out there, and putting yourself out there, then that's all you can really ask for, you know. I know for somebody like me who didn't start making music until, I mean, I didn't make my first record until 2007 or 2008. So at that point, the industry was a very different place than it was just a few years before.
Yeah.
And as a result, I and just about every other musician that I know, we've got side hustles to pay the bills, you know, because music doesn't do it. And it may never do it. If it does, that's great, but it's not going to keep me from making music. It's not going to keep me from writing and making records however I can. And, you know, obviously I hope that at some point the side hustles aren't necessary, but if they are, they are. You know, I'm still gonna keep making music.
So one of the things that I like about how you do it is, like, you have a real integrity when it comes to the process as well of making a record, which frankly I don't. Like, I make my records for cheap by myself, like here in my garage. Whereas, like, you know, you like fidelity and gear and tape and fucking valves and and musicians, Christ's sake, you know, like I'd never experienced that until I kind of joined in a little bit on Ready the Horses on your last record.
Yeah.
And it was quite inspirational, because it was just such a great kind of organic experience of being in a studio with good players and good gear. And, you know, the way that records would have been made 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. Yeah. It's not cheap.
No, it is not. No, it's definitely not. It's very expensive, and you know, there are much cheaper ways of doing it, and arguably it would be smarter to do it that way, because I could probably do it more often if it didn't cost a lot of money to make a record. But I think part of it for me is that since I don't get to do it very often, the experience of being in a studio with players who are incredible musicians with really great gear, being able to take what you've had in your head for a long time and watch it actually come to life in the studio, it's just one of the most exciting parts of the job for me. You know, it's really, really satisfying to have had something in your head for a long time of, okay, this is how I imagine this will go. and then it actually happened when you're in the studio, or even better, it exceeds whatever you thought. You get a group of people there together, and ideas start flying around, and all of a sudden it turns into something that was even cooler than you had in your head.
That takes a certain kind of level of enlightenment that I struggle with, because for me it's like I have it in my head. If it doesn't sound like that, it's wrong, and I panic, and I'm just like it's taken until now to actually get to the point where I can other people's opinions and ideas and decisions can come into the place. But like I love that you're that open to.
Well, I mean, it's not to say that any idea that I hear I like, but it's part of it just comes from me not being able to do what you do. You can play drums, bass, keyboards, guitars, sing. You can do all of these things, so you can make a record all on your own with no other input. I can't do that. I can play guitar, sort of, better than lots, worse than even more than that, and I can sing and I can write a song. For all the rest of it, I need other people, to get what I have in my head to actually come to life.
But the thing that you can do that I can't do is you can go into a studio and you can be like, let's try it out, see what happens. It's like, it blows my mind. Like at first I was like, do you not know what you're doing? But it's like, no, you do know what you're doing. You're like, you're engaging in this process, and this is how the process works out. And it's like, literally, like I've been doing it a long time. Never done that before until the last thing that I did, which largely I only did because I'd sat in on your record. So it was, yeah. Like
happy to have been a small influence. Then.
Yeah, no.
How about that?
Small influence. You say that, I say magnificent inspiration. Yeah. Now let me tell you about this.
Go on.
So this is chocolate and pistachio cannoli stout. It's strong.
A lot of words you don't expect to hear together.
Yeah. Hang on, what is that? What was that?
I thought I was going to get that while you weren't looking. That's just water.
No, I didn't sign up for this. If I'm taking one for the team, I want you to be in the line of fire as well.
I mean, I can always run down where there's a refrigerator and get something else.
Should we take an ad break?
We could take an ad break. What's the product?
I don't know. Is there anything that I think there's sometimes, like, I mean, obviously, we don't have advertisers because, like, who would? Yes. It's like, if you were to advertise something, what is a product that you would advertise?
Well, there are lots of alcoholic beverages that I'm a fan of, and it seems like that would be a good fit. So I would say maybe a whiskey distillery or a brewery could be a place.
I know, but what I'm saying is choose your favorite.
Oh God, I mean that changes every day, doesn't it? My favorite single malt Scotch whiskey would have to be Lagavulin 16 year. It's an Islay Scotch. I don't have any with me, so I can't show you a bottle. Maybe you can cut that in.
How do you, say that name again?
Lagavulin. So what is that? Lagavulin. There you go.
Lagavulin.
That sounds right.
It's a lovely word. I don't know what it tastes like, but I mean, it tastes like whiskey. To me, like they all taste the same. I'm not a whiskey guy. But like wine, I think they all taste fine. So,
what about you?
For me, if I was to advertise something, I mean, Gibson make a great guitar. I like their stuff. Oh no, I'll tell you who I love, who I really like. Let me find one. I've got one here somewhere. Oh shit, I can't find it. There's a company called MIDI Solutions. They make these like little MIDI boxes, and like MIDI, this sort of like 80s technology that no one really uses anymore, except for me. And it's how I kind of get my whole shit to run when I'm doing the live loop machine thing. But I have like 3 or 4 of these little boxes made by this company called MIDI Solutions, and they're just super cool. Like they really help you out of a spot when you need to, like, how do I get this drum machine to talk to that loop pedal? It's like, they've got a box for that. They're great. I love them. And they're like the only people who make them, as far as I'm aware. And they're relatively affordable. And I would be lost without MIDI Solutions. So there we go. That's my advert.
Well, there is somebody who I am sort of advertising on their behalf these days. Calton Cases.
Oh yeah, you could run a tank over that shit, couldn't you?
Yeah, I was about to say you've had firsthand knowledge of how
Yeah.
much beating those things can take. Yeah, recently they offered up an artist endorsement deal, which I was very happy to accept since I've
Nice.
been using their stuff for like 11 years anyway. Yeah, so I'd be more than happy to throw an advert for them up here while I go grab another drink. Here we are. I don't remember what I had last time, but
I
this
think
is
maybe you had that. We were talking about rye.
it was probably this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are, Michter's Straight Rye. There we go.
Now, what does straight mean?
No idea, but that's what's on the label.
Can you get a bendy rye?
You know, I'd like to try a bendy rye or maybe a curly rye.
Yeah.
That would be good. Twisty
Just any
rye.
rye with an element of curvature would be.
Yeah. Oblong rye. Cheers, sir.
Cheers. Good health. I was thinking, the Easy World conversation is like, how do you feel about your earliest works and songwriting? Like, what's like the oldest song of yours that you still play?
The oldest one that I still play is California. That one was on my first record, Ashes on the Ground. The song is now 12 years old, I guess, or actually earlier than that. Would have been written in 2007, I think. I can't remember. 12 or 13 years old. So yeah, that's definitely the oldest one. Ended up re-recording it for Ready the Horses, as you know, mostly because it was one that people always liked when I was playing it live, and it very quickly changed. I wrote the song while we were recording the first album, and like days after I wrote it, we recorded it, and it was a very different version. And it very quickly, as I was playing it live, kind of transformed into the way that I play it now. So I always kind of wished that version were recorded. And then just because it was one that fans seemed to really latch on to, I thought, well, this is probably the time to do it. Aside from that, I don't think there's anything from my first record that I still play. I did go back and listen to parts of it a year ago or something. And I will say there were moments you were kind of saying that there was this element of kind of blissful youth naivety that that allowed you to do things that maybe you wouldn't do now, or I might be putting words in your mouth, but that's how it was for me. You know, there were kind of chord progressions and changes and time signatures and all these things that I did on that first record, mostly because I didn't know any better. That now I wouldn't dream of doing, but listening back, it's like, that was actually kind of cool. You know, like the song itself was still shit, but the idea was actually pretty cool, you know?
Yeah.
So there's parts of that I would like to get back to. I'd like the sort of experimental nature of it where, you know, I would often just be playing around on my guitar and just kind of putting my fingers in weird spots to see if a chord that sounded cool came out of it,
Yeah.
you know? I haven't
Isn't
done
that
that.
crazy? That's the kind of thing, like once you've been playing for a while on any particular instrument, you sort of stop doing that. You just sort of go to
Yeah.
the places you know.
Yeah. Which is tragic, you
Yeah.
know?
I found exactly the same thing. There's some Easy World songs where it's like, what the hell was I thinking going from here to there? Like there's like, well, I mean, I still don't know a lot of musical theory, but there are songs where there's a key change in the middle of the verse.
Yeah.
And then two more in the chorus. Like it doesn't make any sense, but it sort of works.
Yeah.
And it's sort of heartbreaking that I wouldn't do that now because I tend to just like choose a key and stick to it. And it's like, it's pretty lackluster as a way of writing music, really. It's like, well, when there were these possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I had that same feeling, you know. It was kind of like, man, I feel like in a lot of ways I know that I've progressed as a writer and as a musician and as a singer. There's no way to argue that, but there is something that I seem to have lost, or at least temporarily set aside, that I'd like to get back to.
I think it's this sort of I think it's something that can only come with like youth or stupidity. It's
Mm.
like it's confidence born out of nothing. It's like it's this confidence mixed with naivete that, that somehow allows you to just like put these things out and to put them out sort of without what you would, as an older person, you might consider to be the necessary consideration.
Yeah.
So it just means that that maybe some of the stuff you put out is not right, and some of it is sort of quite beautifully, spontaneously, naively brilliant in a way that you can't that no amount of experience or expertise or refinement will ever allow you to repeat. And so I think that's something that that's just so great about, and that's the reason why music, like pop music or like rock and roll, whatever, it's a young people's medium. And
Yeah.
like we, and by we I mean me, you may still have some years left in you, are frankly too old for it, and that's why it sort of bothered me for a little while that like that, you know, when I was 25, like lots of people wanted to give me a record deal, and when I'm 35, no one wanted to.
Yeah.
It's because youth has this weird thing about it, and it used to bother me as a 35-year-old that it's like, well, how come the music industry isn't interested in what I'm doing now? But now I totally get it, and it's right and it's fitting that
Mm.
actually there is this excitement of youth that I think, even if the stuff you're doing isn't particularly well done as far as you know, being like technically proficient, you know, the things that maybe we now recognize to be the hallmarks of technically proficient songwriting, maybe
Yeah.
they don't have that, but they have something else that like I no longer have the command over,
Yeah.
because I sort of, I learned some stuff and I got a little bit stuck in my ways. Jared, it's been lovely to talk to you and to drink with you a little more than we have previously. It must be confessed. But I
Yeah.
think for the benefit of anybody watching, we should probably like you know, cut it
I think,
off there.
yeah, I think it's best if we cut it out here. Lovely to see you. I
Yeah,
wish it were in person. Hopefully it will be again soon. Yeah, giving a love to the family
yeah.
and see you soon, man.
Take her easy, man.
Cheers.